Apologists often tell us that we need morality that's based on the will of a God, because it's the only moral standard that would apply to all people in all times across all cultures. Sure, without a God, a group of us humans might gather together and collectively decide that something is right or wrong. But the problem is our decision would be based solely on our own feelings and opinions, and we would have no authority by which to tell any other culture that our opinion was better than theirs, even on the most apparently obvious of moral questions. For example, let's say that a group of Taliban tribesmen was about to behead a family for apostasy. This sounds horrible, right? I don't like the idea, you don't like the idea, and most other people don't like the idea. Together, we agree that what these men are about to do is wrong. But here's the trick. Taliban culture seems to disagree with us. And while we might feel one way about the beheadings, the Taliban will feel another way. And it seems we need something to resolve this clash of differing moral opinion. So how can we possibly convey to the Taliban that we're right and they're wrong? On what basis could we even begin reaching them with seeds of doubt about their actions? On what basis could we rally the rest of the world behind us in a unified outcry against their actions? This is the challenge implied when apologists warn us about the subjective nature of secular morality. So let's look at our options. On one hand, we could appeal to a fundamental obligation to the family, to the idea that every person in the world has a basic right to personal safety, and that innocent people being dragged out of their homes and killed is a clear violation of that right. Now, is there an airtight philosophical argument for why this right is objectively important? None that an apologist couldn't poke at using semantics, and I'm well aware of the fact that they could endlessly question why our obligation to this family is objective. But even if they can put a label of subjective on it, at least this right is broadly understood and related to. People across cultures grasp what you're bringing to the conversation when you refer to it, and in general, they will share your conviction that innocent people should not be brutalized. Sure, factors like cultural biases, lack of education, and tribalism may have dulled some people's empathy for certain marginalized groups, making them capable of surprising horrors. From the slaveholding South to Nazi Germany to the biblical tribes of Israel, we've seen many societies capable of brutalizing others in ways that shock us. But an appeal to empathy gives us at least some language for describing why what they're doing is wrong. It provides a point of connection between those they've othered and those they care about, laying the foundation for the long and admittedly difficult process of humanizing their victims. It's on this basis, and this basis alone, that the world has rallied together and condemned the Holocaust and other atrocities. And, I would add, it's on this basis that apologists tend to point out atrocities against humans, not the most profound offenses against God, when presenting examples of objective wrongs. The fact is that whether or not I can conclusively describe why our obligation to be decent to others is objective, the appeal to it does work, and it has been our most successful tool for forming safe and equitable societies, and for working past the dehumanizing thought processes that cause some to tolerate atrocities. But let's consider what would happen if, instead, we told the Taliban that God didn't want them cutting off families' heads. How far would that advance the conversation? What would that get us with them, and the rest of the world for that matter, other than an endless debate over theology, with people from various religions and denominations shouting unproven assertions about the will of an objective moral lawgiver who never clearly reveals anything to anybody? If a God came through the clouds and clearly communicated his objective moral standard for us, then that might possibly give us something to unify behind. But until then, all we have are conflicting messages from various cultures that, if anything, exacerbate tribal boundaries between cultures, making the establishment of common moral standards more, not less, difficult. Whenever a small group collectively decides something is right or wrong, religion puts the authority of a God behind their decision, regardless of how well or poorly thought out it is, and regardless of whatever prejudices lie behind their decision, thus degrading the expectation of basic decency by subordinating it to obedience to whatever concept of a higher being a culture has dreamed up, and giving the isolated committers of atrocities every reason to dig in their heels whenever the rest of society questions them. In short, if a higher being exists, it communicates so sparingly that we're basically operating without its guidance. What would a universe without a God look like? It would look exactly like ours. Yet somehow we've done a pretty fair job figuring things out. Society hasn't imploded, and we have improved ourselves. And as far as we have, we've done so by understanding each other and recognizing the value of basic human well-being, not by trying to divine the will of gods.